This is ContactTalkRadio.com, consciousness in action, and you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you on this Wednesday.
It is a wonderful day in the neighborhood. And you know what? I'm going to shake things up, Janet. I'm going to have you do the description. So tell them what we're going to listen to today.
All right. How exciting. Okay. So today on Conscious Conversations, Joan and I are going to talk about being gentle with ourselves in these times of change. We're in the midst of a huge consciousness shift, everyone, you might have noticed. In the middle of 3 eclipses, people are going through enormous upheavals and in some ways completely reinventing themselves. So join us today to learn how to be easy with yourselves as we go through our own unique transformations. I think I did that. Okay.
You did such a wonderful job, and I am so looking forward to learning how to have an easy time from you. So, however, I'm also looking forward to inviting people to join us after the show, so you know how much fun it is to listen to Janet and me yak. Well, we're icebergs. There's a lot more to us. So come find out about that at our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. You can listen to all our podcasts there. You can also read the blogs that Jan and I write. We write really fascinating and interesting things. And as you will discover that we're 2 totally, completely different people. So the blogs are totally different as well. And then we also have totally different meetups around the Puget Sound and in Portland. And so we're going to let you know in just a second or two what we're doing there. You can also find our contacts with Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can get connected there. And also, we have a special offer for you that if you go to our website, you can get a special gift from Janet and me. So, Janet, what's the gift that she has for you?
Well, I think it was the 10 Tops tip for enjoying life. It does say on the title there's 13 of them. That's what I came up with in that moment. So, don't exclude anything. Just throw it in there. So you never know who it hits. And what's your gift to them, Joan?
Well, it's a special technique. So I have a YouTube channel and I do YouTube videos, but also the core of my trainings that I share with people. I do coaching and I do training videos. And so I have a special technique for you if you go there, and you will find out what it is there. I want to really quick also tell them about our meetups. So, Janet, you want to tell them about your groups?
Sure. Tuesday evenings, Thursday afternoons here in Portland, Oregon. If you're local to us, please consider coming to groups here at my home. And we have a marvelous time with entering heart-centered awareness, which is what this is all about, being part of consciousness, and how that works and how we play in the field. And you can find out more on the website or on my website or through meetup.com. Conscious Conversations with Janet or Consciousness Playground. But lots of ways to interact. And then I also have groups that if you're not local, let me tell them about that right now then, John.
Sure.
The Fuzzy Photons Playground groups. We use via Zoom video conferencing, so live interactive over the computer or your app, whatever you might be using, whatever vehicle that you have. And if you're any place other than Portland, it's just about almost as good as being here in person. So we have people like in New Zealand and Colorado and California and Texas, lots of different places. And we just make our space, and it's live interactive, so it's not something to listen to. It's something you really participate in. And you can contact me at janetandbeyond.com directly to get your registration packet. That's 10 and 6 p.m., 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Thursdays, Pacific. Well, we've got to remember the Pacific, don't we?
Right, because there is no time or spaces. And it's all kind of just blurring together anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let them know about my stuff. So I do meetups around the Puget Sound in Seattle and Tacoma and in other places in between. I have one coming up on August 11th in Tacoma at the Wheelock Library. These are conscious conversations. It's an opportunity to get up close and deep consciousness conversations with me and our wonderful folks who've been coming in Tacoma. These are free library meetups, so you can, if you've been having inexplicable experiences of expansion, this is the place for you to find out what's really going on. And I also do share a special technique or two that also helps transform your life. So the first one coming up is in Tacoma on August the 11th. And then I'm going to be back up in Seattle on Sunday, August the 19th. That's also at the library in Magnolia. I'm going to also go back to Vashon Island. Was on Vashon Island this weekend. Nice air conditioning, boys and girls. If it's too hot for you, come to the libraries. They're always air conditioned. So I'm going to be on Vashon Island on Saturday the 18th. And I have a special meet-up workshop in Tacoma on Sunday, August the 26th. It's at Cutter's Point Coffee. So I take the ones that are more in-depth learnings to coffee shops around the place, keeps the costs down, and you can find out about rediscovering your life purpose and regaining your passion. And that's going to be on Sunday, August the 26th at Cutter's Point Coffee on Pearl Street in Tacoma. All of this, Janet's meetups and my meetups and Janet's meetings and all, they are on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. It's very convenient. Go to the pages that say that, and you can click and join us. And we would love to have you. Now, we also, Janet and I do sessions, and that's for you folks all around the world through Zoom and Skype and by the phone. And I have a summer coaching special that is, if you sign up by August 11th, you can get these special discount prices, and that will be 4 coaching sessions and then the training sessions tailored specifically for whatever issue that you want transformed. So I can hold a space for you one-on-one for an entire month. So sign up by August 11th, and you can find out more details at our website. And Janet sessions as well. Do you want to just tell them about that before we get on to our other stuff?
Oh, sessions? Yeah, call me. You got a problem, babe? Call me. I mean, that's really, it's we're all here to help. We all help in different ways, and it's just about being present. And the things that are challenging us, sometimes we don't have the right context for them because we're in the middle of it. And always being able to get outside useful perspective, unbiased perspective is always helpful, because sometimes friends and family are not as neutral as they might be. So please consider calling any of us or anyone in your neighborhood or who you work with, because lots of things are going on right now. And I do want to take one moment here, Joan, to remind people, you may have taken Joan's let me see, what do you call it? Her Rediscover Your Purpose class before. And I want to, because I've taken it, and it's always marvelous, but especially now in this being gentle with ourselves and all that's happened maybe since the last time you took it. These are not things that have adamant, hard lines on them. When you are incorporating new information, when you're releasing old information, those passions and what moves us may be changing also. So do yourself a favor, spend a couple of hours with Joan and notice maybe differences for yourself and celebrate it. Don't be hard about it. It's really reasonable what she offers you there. So take time to notice what's going on in your life. That's my commercial.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for that extra plug. I don't remember you ever taking it with me in body, but Janet, there's no time or space, and for you, there's no physical location. You are everywhere at once. So I'm sure you experienced it from the corner of the room, which reminds me that I experienced a workshop in Portland that you helped, and from the corner of the room. So that's a whole other story. But I will have to say that we have lots to share about what's going on in the world today and being gentle with ourselves in times of change. But, we have to go to a commercial break right now, so we're going to keep you in suspense. So we have to take a stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we were going to be talking more about being gentle with ourselves in times of change when we come right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about being gentle with ourselves in times of change.
I think a good place to start, Joan, is just to let everyone just breathe.
Yes.
Let's just do this collectively, everyone. If you're listening live or if you're at a different time and place and space listening to this, just take this moment and just breathe and notice that. Seems kind of constricted to me. So let's just bring our awareness inward or downward or wherever it wants to go to that place. There you go. I call it heart-centered awareness because it's an inward experience that reaches outward for me. So you may reference it differently in your world, but it's all the same thing. So just allow yourself to be present. Stop the phone, put the thing down, whatever it might be, and just notice. And I think that's the starting place for any adventure that you're on is just remind yourself, and that whatever you're experiencing, let it be user-friendly and not something to judge yourself harshly with. But just notice, especially with what we're talking about today, about being gentle with ourselves. A lot of us have a lot of dynamic, energetic, forceful information that we've been holding inside. Anyone who's lived a life has got events in there and emotions and thinking that if we could have been different, or, if it could have been different. I think it's probably the guiding rule there. So you can have feelings on all different sides, and then you have everybody else's conversations in there. So in just being gentle with ourselves, appreciating that you are much more than the individual, you are the individual in the collective sharing. So just breathe. Yeah, that feels better. So there's our starting place, Joan. What do we want to do today?
Well, that was a wonderful starting place. And I think that's what we all need to do. It feels like some people need to know that they're not alone with all this craziness. It's pretty amazing. I have regularly scheduled calls that people call me throughout the week, and every single one of them has different life circumstances, and every single one of them is going through emotional upheavals. Mm-hmm. So, one woman flooded her house, so they've got to knock out all the drywall, and another person had something else that's like really emotional, and somebody else had to kick out their roommate because of drug problems, all these different things. And I'm not revealing anything that shouldn't be revealed. But what I just noticed is that whatever is the core issue for you is coming up, or you're hitting this propelling, this feeling of wanting to be propelled, of wanting to get something done, and yet we're in the northern hemisphere, we're hitting this kind of summer doldrums, and in the winter, the southern hemisphere, we're hitting the kind of the long slog of winter. And there's astrological things going on as well, where we're in the middle of a Mars retrograde. So Mars is the planet of action. So even though we're getting lots of urges to be in action, we're being kind of reversed sideways. We're actually coming through a massive eclipse, which is opening doors and shutting doors. And it's just a really crazy time. So, the whole thing about stopping and taking a deep breath. And we're talking about self-care and caring for yourself. And any of those things does require you to stop and slow down.
One thing I did this at the top of the show is I said this was Wednesday. And I'm realizing here, because I don't normally refer to a day, is because we do need anchors, placeholders in consciousness sometimes. And especially when things can feel very movable, let's say. And you look for consistency because that's how you identify with. It's easier on our minds to have habits and things like that. So in saying that this is Wednesday morning, I guess the year isn't important because that's not what's coming up. It's just this is Wednesday morning. And even if it's a different time and place, there's a anchor back to that. And just notice about being present here. Because there is so much going on. And schedules get different in the summertime, right? If you have children and things like that. And business can be in an uproar and in seasonal space, and there's lots of deadlines and pressures, and a lot of that, most of that is all mankind constructs. Okay, oops, I slipped there. Just notice that, because your body may be experiencing time and a need to be in the moment differently than it usually does. And this is one way to be kind and gentle to yourself, is appreciating where you are right now. And it's not a sense of having to put off things. It's having a sense to shift in how you relate to time. And there's going to be a shift in relating to lots of different things. We're noticing that people are physically being moved out of their location, or they're going to have to do something totally different. They're going to have to feel different if they think that that's what it's about. There's all kinds of things that are involved in our everyday choices. And in being kind to yourself, being gentle to yourself, is about appreciating that what was is not now. And being okay with that. And when you feel the push to do something, you might ask yourself, why am I pushing? And maybe taking a breath. What you got, Joan?
Well, I love all of your suggestions because here's the conflict that's going on. Is that we are going through this enormous expansion as consciousness. And the way I see it is that we've gone through an upgrade so that greater consciousness can come into form. That means the more expanded aspect of you, the part of you that transcends time and space, can come more into your body. So you are feeling all those qualities of consciousness within your physical space, which is, consciousness transcends time or space. There is no time or space. But the thing is that your body exists within time and space. Mm-hmm. Your body goes from past to future. So taking a deep breath and noticing how it feels brings you into the present moment and allows the self-care is really caring for your physical body and its physical reality. And we get so excited about rushing forward because as consciousness, you can imagine something and instantly it is there. It's not necessary, we're getting there, but it's not necessarily at your feet in physical time, but it is constructed as consciousness. So it is there as a possibility. So anyway, I've just run too far ahead of myself with that. I would suggest for folks is, do the things that make your body feel comforted, make your body feel relaxed and at ease. If that is soaking in a tub, if that is going to the beach and standing in salt water, if that is cozying up with a good romance novel, if that is having some delicious comfort food or, wonderful, juicy, ripe fruit that's available at this time of year, all those sorts of things to care for your physical body, that is going to help you, regardless of the deadlines and the chaos and the immediate, tragic things that are going on in the news or around you. That's actually going to help you get through this time and actually even enjoy the expansion.
Well, and that's probably one reason why we revel in nature. And our suggestions are to go to nature because nature has a different pace. And that makes some people uncomfortable being in nature because they have control issues. They're trying to force things or ignore things or deny things or whatever it might be. And I'm not making a judgment about anyone who doesn't like nature. I think what it is
who doesn't like nature?
Who doesn't like nature, right? Is that it's appreciating getting yourself out of the rut. The routine of rut, or the rut of your routine, I'm not quite sure here in the moment, of being in the same state. You change the state and you force yourself. And sometimes that's why vacation is never long enough, right? It's because by the time you get there and the prep to it, and then you just have a few days or moments, and then you got to start the prep of preparing to leave and all that, is giving yourself. And that's why this work is important, because you don't need all the prep time. We are just taking a moment out of the day and reminding ourselves of what's truly working inside and then going back into the day, however you've got it constructed. And that's being gentle with yourself. Something comes to mind, I think I wrote about this either last week or this week, Joan. So often we think like cheetahs. And the reason that
cheetahs, not Cheetos.
Cheetahs,
okay.
yeah. Not cheaters, cheetahs, the animals.
Cheetos, I was thinking, not cheaters, but some people do think like cheaters, and there are Cheetos who do that. But keep going.
Okay, the big spotted cat out in the
savannah or something.
Savannas of Africa. Okay, the cheetah. Now the cheetah is the world's fastest animal, I think, someplace like that, for very short amounts of time. And then it rests, and it may rest a long time before it gets up again. And that's how it's the fastest animal. It's not the fastest animal all the time. It is in bursts. And I think sometimes we think we're cheetahs without the rest part, right? You're chasing something, you're separating it from the herd, you're in the heat of the day, you're got a burst of energy, and we forget that you got to relax out of that. Or, if a cat doesn't do that, it'll die because it can't put out that much energy without taking time to refill that. And it may be at peak maximum being optimal in that moment it's running, but then it stops. And it doesn't catch everything it runs after. And I'm always looking to nature to give me input back as to how I'm performing in my animal nature. And I think that's important. People think they're cheetahs and they're just running, and they're going to collapse at some point. So.
That actually reminds me of greyhounds.
Yeah, yes.
Greyhounds are actually, retired greyhounds are great apartment animals or apartment pets because they're actually couch potatoes.
Yeah.
Except you do need to take them out so that they can stretch their legs. But right. In general, you're right. They're not frenetic. And cats actually like to sleep 20 hours a day.
Yeah, really. Really. Yeah.
So it's about conserving their energy and using their energy wisely. And, all of us have different rhythms. So for instance, my husband needs to go to bed for 12 hours. He may sleep, 8 or 9 hours within that, but he needs that 12 hours. That drives me crazy. I'm a 6 hours a night person.
Yeah.
And so for me to take a nap is extreme. Take my temperature if I take a nap. There's something really wrong. So we each have different pacings, and slowing down for one person may look different than slowing down for another. But this is really about allowing for the integration. So, after you have any like body work done, a massage or whatever, they always say like drink lots of water and take some time to walk around or whatever. And this is about integrating because we are doing a lot of work and we are actually making a lot of progress. Even if it doesn't look like you're making progress, there's a lot of stuff going on beneath the surface for you. So I just want to validate that.
Yeah, it's and we do see around us examples of people that run full bore, right? And so we kind of get educated to that's a norm. And I mean, for instance, just watching the Tour de France last week or the last 3 weeks, and watching what those men put themselves through in their being human to the utmost. But you notice they're all pretty lean, whatever their body types, and pretty much they start to follow a certain body type. And what they go through, I don't know what their adventures are the rest of the year and what that training program looks like. But I do know that some of them survive later on as commentators. And one was talking about how he'd done it for 4 years and one had been for 11 years. And you just go, there's a certain energy that happens. And so all of us have the potential to be top athletes in how we train. But the body might not be there, and we're all at different places. So I don't mean to make this a discourse on anything other than just appreciating how to be gentle with yourself, how to be, and I'm sure those men have to be gentle with themselves at times, but their experience of that is going to be different than perhaps mine is. But there has to be some place where that body can just be expressed, the mind gets expressed, the thinking gets expressed, the connection between soul and spirit and all that are all working in a common direction. And that's where we're at with people, I think, collectively in consciousness. Is all these different elements of ourselves are interfacing. Information that's been stored in one realm or another is popping out. And this is our grand chance to do that. Allow that process to happen, maybe in a different way than you've had it happen before, and celebrate and honor ourselves and saying, okay, this is really going to come out, and this is where it's going, and I can feel that it's getting clearer and clearer and clearer to where there's just the purity of what that essence is, right? And it's in there in all of us. So I'm ready to go lie down.
You've expelled your energy for the day, so
really.
It's that is true, and I was curious because I haven't seen the Tour de France in a while, but is it still all men doing it? Are there any women, or is it's entirely totally male?
Three weeks of men on bicycles up and down mountains. I think they do like 2,000 miles, something over that. After a while it all kind of blurs together, and it's just amazing,
Yeah. But it's interesting that there's a macho-ness to that.
Perhaps. I don't know. I don't see that part of that. I just see people challenging themselves. And they're all men. But it's like probably women have too much fat on them to do it. I mean, their corpuscles are just a little different. I don't know.
Women can be pretty lean as well, and women can be pretty muscular. But I remember reading something about the experience of doing that, and I think about how, as consciousness is coming into form right now, all those things are opening up to people of all genders, because there's gender fluidity that's going on. There is a greater those definitions are breaking down as greater consciousness comes into form.
It'll be interesting to see, my sense about it is that men have been in a habit of on quest for a long time. So it's in their drive, I think, to just go out. Right. And I think women's orientation might be a little different. I have no idea. Don't hold me to anything I'm not an expert about, but just in noticing the energy of it. So.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's interesting. It's just interesting to see those dichotomies now, when simultaneously the lines are blurring.
Well, I think it serves. It's like, does that interest you? Wow, maybe you always wanted to be a cyclist or something, and now is like, since roles planes are loosening up, and thinking is loosening up, and definitions and limits are loosening up in people and society, that there are different ways to explore. The truth we've always heard is that you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, that's a true American kind of premise, I think. There are no limits. Well, we know there's lots of limits when you... And the reality is it's the limit of your thinking. And how congruent you are to saying, this is a limit and I can't do that, so I'll do this. And I think this is awakening us up to, what did you put aside in order to do that for whatever reasons? And that's what makes this interesting to me. I don't know if it's so much exciting as it is interesting. What catches your attention now? What did you put off? What are those silly wishes and desires that when you were 3 or 4? And where are they in your reality now? And why can't they be real? So.
Yeah, my mind is going completely off topic. It's very interesting where all these different thoughts are coming from. So for instance, there's a sideline going on here that has got nothing to do with self-care, or does it have to do with self-care? Well, you know what it has to do with? It has to do with our our identities shifting and changing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can be very disorienting for people.
Well, that's probably about self-care.
Yeah.
What do you think at the heart of that? It's like, okay, how do I be true to myself? Has anyone ever asked us to be true to ourselves before? No. I mean, family's not good for asking you to be true for yourself. It's, you're always part of something. So to have self-identity and having it be who you are is a very rare experience, I think. And it took a very special family to say, be who you want to be. We wish you well. And how can we help you? That's not always anybody's experience, or a predominant experience, I don't think. So that's what the self-care is about. So I would say that's self-care.
Yeah. So self-care can take lots of different forms. It's not just get hot baths and chocolate.
Yeah, right.
So the chocolate part's my favorite. I don't have enough patience to be in a bath. By the time it fills up, I need to get out. So
well, that says a lot right there, right? The way you're oriented. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So each of us is unique, and somebody else might need to go for a run. Some people's, creative and spiritual practice is physical expression, and working out is their kind of meditation. So,
and excuse me, Janet, there are things we do in our everyday habituated lives that are sustaining to us, and they do bring us comfort, and they do add and give us that time and space. The challenge comes in when our schedule changes, when something happens, when we get put into a different reality where we can't access the same way. We have one friend who, she moved from the eastern United States to New Zealand. Her life is totally different. Her references are totally different. She's changed in all different kinds of ways, except in the way that she is now being in her truth, right? And you celebrate that, but also those points of contact look a little different. The rhythms in her body are a little different. So it's this adjustment period that we have to appreciate and go through. If you're fortunate, you don't have a dictative time that says, okay, I leave on the 5th, I come and I'm there starting the 9th, and the new job starts the 11th. These artificial constraints that get put on us, because you're in preparation to leave on the 5th, it may be a whole year before you find yourself back to where you think you kind of sort of were. And we're busy making changes and having to put it under our awareness so that we can keep going to this forward thing. And so this is where we're all kind of catching up, I think, is what we didn't allow ourselves to get into before, what we didn't have time for, what we didn't have space for. And so, be kind and gentle with yourself as you recover in your awareness of what you've put where.
And the funny thing about this is that time is actually malleable.
Right.
So if you take time for yourself, I find it often expands the time for doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, a bazillion years ago, I was a student at this metaphysical school, and they had their retreat center on Vashon Island, and I lived in Seattle at the time, and I would take the ferry out once a week to go clean the retreat. That was my job. Mm-hmm. And, I had to get on a ferry. I had to get there. So I was pretty amped up when I got there. And I found that if I took 15 minutes to meditate, it only took me 3 hours and 45 minutes to clean the place. But if I didn't, it would take me 4 hours to clean the place. And the difference was, is that I felt better if I took some time to myself before I got started.
Isn't this interesting how we're relating time and care together? Because I think that's true, right? I'm sitting here going, okay, well, what if I do this and this and this for myself, and that feels good? And do I have a different sense of time? Or do I have, oh, here, I'm doing this, this, and this, and I'm not recognizing it as self-care in the moment because it's part of a busy day, right? It's where you hold awareness of all these things. So, if it's driving someplace, which can be fraught with all kinds of things, or if we're being able to do let me just slip here and be part of all this and be actively aware, and also find that space inside that's relaxed. And I think sometimes it's just how aware you are of yourself in your processes, and maybe that's changing also.
Well, it's true for me. One of the things I noticed last week in terms of the huge shifting that is going on is I'm feeling an enormous energetic shift within my body, yet another upgrade. And I remember back when I started the whole personal growth thing, back in the 1980s, it was growth spaces were really huge, and they would come every once in a while. And how I relate to it now is that it's as frequent as your phone upgrading. Mm-hmm. So if you think about when we, with our computers, it's like, oh no, not another upgrade. It's going to mess everything else. But I've actually gotten used to getting the notification. It's upgraded to 11.5 or whatever. So you just turn your phone off, turn it back on again, and it actually is operating more smoothly. Or the next time it upgrades, it's upgrading a bug, debugging something. So it's relaxing and allowing for these upgrades because they're coming faster and faster, and ultimately they're making things more smooth. But it's weird. It was very weird last week. And for me, there was part of me is like, oh, I wish somebody else would be out there telling me what's going on right now and putting out new tools and techniques. And the thing is that all the tools and techniques need to be upgraded every time this happens. So there isn't anybody else because, Janet, you and I are on the leading edge of all this.
Well, there's lots of room for others on the edge, I'm sure. We're not the only ones hanging over.
No, we're not. But the thing that's happening, and I'm sure this is part of what everyone's feeling, is that people get to be the experts in their own lives. I think that's what we're feeling.
Yeah, that definitely is shifting. Certainly in our household, because my husband retired 2 months ago, and today, actually 2 months ago. And so our sense of self-care and time and timing and self-care and how those relate, and a sense of identity and purpose and passion, all that is having time for my husband to experience in new ways and to let down behaviors. And I think I notice it certainly for him in the fact that when you are working full time and you only have this amount of time to work on a project or something or whatever the issue is, you're always feeling the constraints of, okay, I got to get up at 7 and I got to be done here so tomorrow's Monday meeting I can be okay, right? And so everything gets narrowed in. And what my husband is finding is that there's no limit. So he can start a project and that's how far he gets. And, I have time tomorrow. So he's relating to his whole experience of his daily life in different ways. And we have to appreciate that. We have to say there's nothing wrong with having that constraint of time gone. And for some people, that loss of identity about who you are when you get up and when you go to bed and when you eat your lunch and you check in the time clock, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that can be thrown. And sometimes it might be something to really notice that there is hope. There is. You can live long enough to enjoy life.
Speaking of time, it's that time again. So we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we're talking about being gentle with ourselves in times of change when we come right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about being gentle with yourself in times of change.
You know, it's kind of easier when it's hot to be gentle, right? I mean, when you have the wherewithal to notice the time with the heat and all that kind of stuff, because some people don't have that leniency for themselves or whatever their setup. They still have to work hard, right? And so you really have to be present in the moment and say, okay, I need to stop for a moment. I need to have a glass of water, and then I need to go back, right? And it's really how you set up. How is your world? User friendly, or is it challenging you every step of the way? So,
yeah, and I kind of skipped past the emotional part about being gentle with yourself. I kept talking about chocolate and baths. So, you know, the thing I noticed is that a lot of this may look like you've encountered this before, and then start berating yourself that why haven't I
right then, yeah.
learned? Yes. And I liken this kind of evolutionary growth to like doing a remodel in your house, and you already cleaned out all the mold in the basement, and you've, rewired and painted it and got rid of, the original wallpaper. And then you're up at the next floor and there's rat turds and there's termites, and it's like, oh, I haven't done anything. It's like, no, you're at the next level. So we're all at our next level, and we've touched base on this recently. It's revisitations of the past, and that doesn't mean that you're in the past. It actually means you're at a new level and you get to respond differently. So, yeah.
I have to share this with you. I'm seeing the rats coming back and back. When you keep hearing the rats and you can't find them, and you're like, okay, this time I'm going to do it differently, I'm sorry. That's just what I kept picturing.
Well, there's a truth. If you have an old house, you're always going to have rats, because you can't completely eradicate the scent that calls new rats in. You just have to have a really good relationship with your termite stock.
I think where I see it is, they're there. You can hear them. Right. And how do we do that inside with our emotions and our thinking and that old stuff? And you go, God, where are they? And we're looking to navigate, and we're going to say, you go back into the house and you sit and you breathe and you go, okay, if I was a rat, where would I be? And you play it that way. You can bring an outside exterminator because they know where rats go and do all that kind of stuff. And that's always useful too. But there might be this place of, well, what if I just set up this force field and go, rats, you don't need to come in here. I mean, I know there's so many people who do energy work who do this, is that they put themselves in the center of wherever they find themselves. And they go, well, how do I make a rat happy and me happy and we don't have to interact? We do that all the time with stuff. So don't be afraid with what's been chewing at you, nibbling at you, teasing you inside. Take the time to go, okay, this time I'm going to pay attention. And what is it? Why are you there? And can this be different? I don't want rats.
Well, yes. And there's actually is a spiritual thing where you sit down and you communicate with the deva of the rat and ask them politely to go, and they'll leave until the house gets sold and the next people have to deal with it. But I was going to ask you, it sounds like you're speaking with knowingness about rats. Is your cat not doing the job it's supposed to be doing? Or
I would think that cat that we presently lives with us would be traumatized by a rat. That would not be in her mindset at all.
She's way
or
too
maybe she's
educated.
busy. Yeah, she stays downstairs, so I wouldn't put that on her.
Well, I want to take some time here as we're winding down. We've given people lots of ideas about how to be gentle with themselves during the time of change. And I want to invite them to join us in being gentle with ourselves in times of change after the show completes. So go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and we each have a special gift for you. When you go there, you can give us your email, and we will send you a link to Janet's top tips for enjoying yourself. I think there's another angle to that as well that you have. And I have a special technique that is going to definitely help you with these times of change. You can also listen to our past podcasts. We referred to something that we talked about last week. That's on our website there. And Jan and I write about these things as well, so you can get more in depth about the things that we're talking about. You can learn about our meetups. So if you're in the Northwest, we're in Seattle, Tacoma, and Portland with our regular meetups, and we have a meetup page there that tells you exactly how to connect with us there. You can also, if you're into Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, so are we, so you can link to us there. We've got wonderful things going on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And also, Janet, you want to tell them about your special groups?
Oh, Fuzzy Photons Playground Groups. It's not easy to say that. I'll tell you sometime. So if you're not local, Joan or I, and would like to partake in a group, pretty much one-on-one because the groups are small, contact me to register for Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Thursdays Pacific time, and get involved with people around the world, literally, in different time zones and spaces, and connect with us and feel change happen in your life. It's great stuff.
Yeah, and I'll just really quick say that you folks who are local to me, I'm in Tacoma coming up on August 11th. I'm in Seattle on August the 19th. I'm actually on Vashon Island on August the 18th. I'm doing a special workshop in Tacoma on the 26th. Rediscover your purpose and regain your passion. So go to consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com and you can get all the details there. And I have a coaching special. So for those of you who aren't local, who might be feeling some incredible changes going on, I have opened some space to do private coaching with you one-on-one. It's really incredibly reasonable. You get 4 sessions with me and 4 series of coaching techniques for really less than 2 sessions normally. So that's an amazing opportunity for you, and I will connect with you anywhere, regardless of your time zone around the world.
There's all kinds of time zones.
Yes, and half-hour zones. You know, India is not only like it's 12 and a half hours off. It's like, well, okay.
Oh,
a little bit
okay.
different. I think what it is that on the West Coast, if you turn your watch upside down, you know what time it is in India.
Oh, is that it?
I think that means that it's like, is it 20 to 6? Or is it
well,
6:40? Something like that.
We're always challenged in group when we're talking with our one who's in New Zealand, because we meet on Thursdays at 6 p.m. and it's Friday there. I think I don't even know. And it's interesting, especially like with the eclipse last week. And we were all set to have our experience here, and we were talking with her, and she reported what was going on for her at the time. And, you know, it's interesting how artificial and that times are. You can see where they're necessary and they have place, but consciousness knows no time and space. So we can be at the same place at the same time, whatever time that is, and in the same space, no matter where that space is. So it's always a delight. Please consider joining either Joan or I someplace along the way of your path.
And speaking of no time or space, we really appreciate you listening to this, because regardless of when you're listening to this, you are actually helping to co-create this in the moment right now. And we really appreciate your contribution to the morphic field of this show.
Yeah, feels good out there, Joan. It's been fun.
Yes, and you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, and this is Janet. And tune in next week, same time, same channels.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy life.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.